This is a different kind of war. There are no marching armies or solemn declarations. Some citizens of South Vietnam, at times with understandable grievances, have joined in.
They went, they served, they sacrificed, and they paid the ultimate price.
I was a young boy, and I had never even heard of Vietnam. All I knew was everyone was talking about communism. Growing up in the 50s, everybody knew the evils that it brought. From what the teachers talked about in school, it was terrible and caused many innocent people to die. In May 1964, I was a senior and getting ready to graduate from Carlisle High School. I decided that I wanted to join the United States Marine Corps. On October 23, 1964, I went to Philadelphia and was officially inducted into the Marines. The next day, I left for boot camp in Parris Island, South Carolina. After almost 3 long and treacherous months, I graduated on January 13, 1965. The following day, I left for Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for training. My real time to shine came on June 22, 1966, when I left for training in Okinawa, Japan. Shortly after, I began my operations in Dong Nong, Vietnam. I was officially a Marine. I was ready to serve my country. I was Private Gary L. Ream.
A leader to me is someone that can work with a group of people, either large or small, and get them motivated to give them guidance, to gain people's respect. I think a leader has to have respect of anybody that they may have control over.
America's involvement with Vietnam began in 1954 with a political treaty that divided the country in two. The Soviet Union and Communist China supported the North, while the United States backed the South. There was a great fear that communism would spread throughout the region. By the spring of 1964, Vietnam had become a hotspot in the Cold War. With the support of the North, the homegrown guerrilla force known as the Viet Cong, or the VC, was working to overthrow the Vietnamese government and reunite the country under communist rule. On August 2, 1964, the USS Maddox was attacked by 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats in the Gulf of Tonkin. On August 4th, a second attack was reported. The next day, U.S. planes retaliated and struck the North Vietnamese coast. By the fall of 1964, the South Vietnamese government was in disarray while its military was crumbling under advances of the nearly 150,000 Viet Cong soldiers who controlled almost half of the South Vietnamese countryside. The Viet Cong soldiers were farmers by day and fighters by night, capable of launching hit-and-run attacks and then melting back into the jungle undetected. Both the South and the North recognized the attack on Tonkin, a declaration of war by the Americans, and they intended to fight. In contrast to the air attacks on North Vietnam, the U.S.-South Vietnamese war effort in the South was fought mostly on the ground. In general, U.S. military forces in the region pursued a policy of slow destruction, aiming to kill as many enemy troops as possible rather than trying to secure territory. By 1966, large areas of South Vietnam had been designated as free fire zones, from which all innocent civilians were supposed to have evacuated and only the enemy remained. Heavy bombing by B-52 aircraft or shellings made these zones uninhabitable as refugees poured into camps and designated safe areas near Saigon and other cities. Even as the death count doubled, Viet Cong troops refused to stop fighting, encouraged by the fact that they could easily reoccupy lost territory. By November 1967, the number of American troops in Vietnam was approaching 500,000, and the U.S. casualties had reached 15,058 killed and 109,527 wounded. As the war stretched on, some soldiers came to mistrust their government's reasons for keeping them there, as well as Washington's claims that the war was being won.
Dear Butch, we got hit about 5 nights ago when I was on perimeter. We usually start watch about 9, and me and 2 other guys were just sitting around shooting when a few rounds came by our heads. We jumped in our hole just in time, for a lot of automatics opened up to the right of our position. Rounds were launching all around us, and one round landed about 2 feet from our hole, but the hole was sandbagged and we didn't get hit. It lasted for about 20 minutes and they made their bid, like they always do. Nobody was hit, but a lot of tents, including mine, got holes all through them.
With the war no longer in the hands of the Americans, there was no other choice than to begin withdrawing soldiers. As the first U.S. troops were withdrawn, those who remained became increasingly angry and frustrated, intensifying problems with morale and leadership. Tens of thousands of soldiers received dishonorable discharges for desertion. President Richard Nixon ended draft calls in 1972 and instituted an all-volunteer army the following year. In the United States, the effects of the Vietnam War would linger long after the last troops returned home in 1973. The nation spent more than $120 billion on the conflict in Vietnam from 1965 to 73. This massive spending led to widespread inflation, worsened by a worldwide oil crisis in 1973 and skyrocketing fuel prices. Many returning veterans faced negative reactions from both opponents of the war and its supporters. In 1982, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was unveiled in Washington, D.C. On it were inscribed the names of 57,939 American armed forces killed or missing during the war. Later editions brought the total to 58,200.
Dear Butch, the other night we were sent on set in an ambush, and we got the word that another one of the ambushes sprung theirs, but they got into some trouble, so we had to go to their rescue. But when we got there, they had withdrew. They said that they had rifle grenades, plenty of hand grenades, and automatic rifles. After they sprung their ambush, the VC hit them so hard they withdrew to a building, which was stupid, and they came right up on them and threw grenades in. Lucky only 2 men got killed. We got there, set up security, until tanks came in and took us all to Delta Company. Tomorrow we go down to the beach, stay for about a month. We have to stay for monsoons. We don't do too bad when we get hit. Sure, you're running around in circles for a while, but that's normal. It's not too bad except you don't get much sleep, and you're tired all the time. Well, that's about it for now. Take care of yourself, and don't work too hard. I will write as often as possible. Peanut.
The definition of a leader is someone whom people follow or guide or direct others. There were many acts of leadership in Vietnam that rank won't tell. Gary was one of the many. From the words of Gunny Sergeant David Brooks on the events that took place on that fatal day of Gary's death. First Squad was doing patrol that morning. It was drizzling. Bill Carpenter and Gary Ream were the point elements in the patrol, and I was in the middle. We were out maybe a half hour, not long into the patrol, and we came into a rice paddy. Not a large one, but still a rice paddy off to our right. We had spotted a male, and he spotted us and started running right up to the paddy. He was told in Vietnamese several times to stop. He continued running. The trail we were on led to a village not far away. There was 11 of us, and another squad not far behind. We started firing at the male, and he got hit, but not bad. He kept running. Carpenter and Ream went running to cut off his escape. They had reached a pine-covered area before the village. They had walked right into an ambush. We got there seconds after. Both were hit in the chest. The running male was a Viet Cong soldier trying to lead the entire squad into the ambush. These 2 Marines saved the rest of the squad from walking straight into it. Bill and Gary saved my life and the rest of the squad that day.
To our family, he was a hero, and that was documented many times online. Like Wayne Mott's the curator, and his captain and I have been back and forth in touch trying to get him the Bronze Star with Beaver Valor. And he was just, he gave his life for his country, and we know he did that as a hero. Leading his squad, he saved his squad from being ambushed because he was the point man that day.
Gary would never return home from Vietnam. His family would never see him again. But because of the leader Gary became in the last moments of his life, many men would return home to their families. Because of Gary, they would grow up with children and have grandchildren. That's legacy, an interconnection across time with a need for those who have come before us and a responsibility to those who come after us. Rest in peace, Gary. May your legacy always be remembered.
No best memories. Every day was a good memory, because we were always together.